Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Hopefully everyone was able to rest up and get a solid trading day going today. Hopefully you all had a solid, a nice time away from the markets for a little while with the extended weekend and all that fun stuff. Welcome to the daily afternoon market recap and offering overview. Over the next 30 to 60 minutes, we're going to be looking over and covering what took place today and the trade setups that presented themselves per the rules outlined in our Day Trading Academy and the VIP trade plans, as well as just the ones that we saw this morning during the VIP room. Now, I am going to talk about every setup that presents itself today, but remember, not all patterns and setups are created equal. The ones that I cover here don't use common sense as a filter at all. Going long in a massive downtrend is just as applicable as going long in an uptrend. It doesn't really matter. You kind of get the picture, and really the idea is to ensure total fairness in all of the patterns so that there's no cherry picking. Don't forget, before we kick this off, smash the like button on the YouTube side of things and let the algorithm know what's going on. And while you're at it, make sure to subscribe as well so you don't miss the next video. We have 2 videos that launch every single day, or most every day, and yeah, you don't want to miss out on those. If you want to hang out with me and the rest of the VIPs for the entire US morning session, you can register for a 1-week trial to our private VIP live trade room to see how we trade the markets in real time while they're moving. Plus, when you register for the trial, you also get our 24-page guide on risk reward, along with access to schedule a 30-minute phone call with me to discuss any questions that you may have about joining as a member. And the best part is, it's totally free. You don't need a credit card or anything else like that to register, so make sure to get on the calendar soon. If you have any questions about what we offer or what's available or anything else, really, we do a Q&A time while we are looking at the charts and trying to find some trades a little bit later, so we'll make sure to definitely get you covered. So with all that out of the way, let's take a look at what all is happening today on the Nasdaq and then work our way forward from there. All right. Now, as far as the overall movement that we've got going on the Nasdaq from today's perspective, zooming way out and looking at what really happened here, this is nothing more than a big continuation. Let me make it even bigger. A big continuation of, well, really what took place on yesterday, on Monday, towards the end of the day. It was at 10:30 at night, but it was there. That's the big continuation phase to the downside. And so when we came into the U.S. session after the Monday holiday, we're kind of left picking up scraps a little bit. There's not a whole lot that was left. And in fact, the majority of the rest of the move down happened at 5:30 in the morning. So there's not really much that we can do with that kind of scenario. We need a bit more to work with. And really the only thing that happened today, aside from going sideways for a really long time, was the fact that we finally had a reach back up above the highs. And you know me, one of my absolute favorite plays, especially when you have a really strong down move, is to have that one play that reaches up, breaks those previous stops, just to ram the thing right back down into the floor. You could also look at this in the long side. It doesn't really matter. The idea is the same. So when we're looking at this, that concept is exactly what took place right here. And not only did we try to break the barrier above the top and try to press through this, that's that big kind of thick area of volume here, they couldn't do it, but they also lined up with a bounce 5 right back in the opposite direction, which finally led up into a continuation play. And it worked out beautifully for a lot more than what I took it for. If we're looking back, that's really about all that happened. Now, as we go into the afternoon session, there's not really much else that's really changed. In fact, if we look at the bigger picture here, like what we were talking about this morning, this kind of shows us what's all taking place. This is more just a continuation of the larger fifth wave. We aren't really going up. We're not really going, I mean, we are going down kind of, sort of, but it's barely at the lows, and we haven't really made any new major lows below 156.75, and that's going to be the hot spot that it's got to dig down into. So as it stands, one of the big things that we really need to see here is how far are they able to actually manage, to go. The sellers have tried. We've got a POC hovering at 498.50. They've got their balance point. Now we just have to see if they can finish the job and actually break the low. And that goes back to the bigger picture of kind of keeping this wedge base going. A little bit more. 15,000 flats right around the corner. All right. taking a look at what's going on so far now as we continue into the afternoon session, the market is still driving its way lower. The S&P has finally broken through a lot of its support, and all of that stuff is now out of the way. Now they have to wait and see if they're able to sustain it. We opened up with a absolutely monstrous gap to the downside, even from Friday, let alone yesterday, but also Friday, all the way down to a new low. So with this huge continuation to the downside, I mean, obviously the sellers are in charge, but we just had to work through some of the bulls first. Zoom in and see if we can find some areas of opportunity to work with. At the moment, it's basically just straight down bearishness. Let's see what they want to do. Go. See if they've got a bit more continuation or what they want to do here. We've got some halfway decent sell side follow through, kind of, sort of, but it feels like they're sort of lacking. It's getting ground into the floor right now. They've got to hang on to this. Sellers are trying, though. Let's see what they're able to do. Still stuck at the base. Sellers with a bit more continuation, trying to drive a little bit further. Now, the S&P sellers, they're not necessarily going to want to be selling way down in the floor. And in fact, every time we've had a bull bounce, that's been the opportunity for the sellers to try to pressure back down again. So any amount of movement that we can get above some of these previous areas, especially back up to like the 67s, is going to be a nice spot for the sellers to pressure back. That's kind of the low close below some of that gapping, and that gives us an area of interest to work with. It's a bit more beneficial than selling way down at the lows, at least for now, if they're able to get it going. Nasdaq could use any kind of correction at all. It's in desperate need of a correction, real bad. The majority of the volume, if we look from this last push up to the new low on the Nasdaq, that gives us an overall base of volume at around 264.25. And if we look at that realistically, it kind of makes sense, right? All of the sellers who are short into this move, wherever they got short into this move, are going to be looking to take profit. The inside swing all the way down to the low is a perfect spot to look for that to happen. So it makes sense to see a POC from that perspective on the top down. If we combine it with the previous move from the bottom all the way up back down, we can see that that's where the sellers were getting in at. This is the POC at 320.75. So we can see what's going on from that perspective there. Looks as though the sellers are trying to grind it a bit further. Shorts hit on the S&P. Also hit the next entry point, but didn't get a fill. C'est la vie. Tested the next entry point 1.5 million times, but couldn't actually get a fill, and then rotated down and gave me the target on the 1. Really? I couldn't get 2 on that, huh? Okay. That's not very nice. Well, it's a beautiful little short side scalp there, but kind of frustrating in the way that it's set up. It just bounced off my secondary entry. Didn't give me anything. Oh well. A pad it is. A point a day. 10 minutes in, too. Not too bad. They did end up closing that out as a bull engulfing candle. And if we look at the overall transitional phasing going on, is this strong enough to transition off the lows, pivot the bears out, and rotate up to a new high? Probably not. Right? If anything, the bears are still going to be fighting over this for a while and trying to get this to keep going. So chances are, if the bulls do take this, we'll still see something along the lines of this, which means a higher low at the very least, if not a continuation down to keep going. Bulls may try, but there's just not enough proof. Nice little scalping opportunity for the sellers to pressure back from the afternoon bounce there. Let's see what else they're able to accomplish. No, Upland, not yet. Looking across the board, Nasdaq getting a little bit of a jump here, but the S&P is down at the low and having a bit of a hard time. The Nasdaq on the 15-minute as well is just piercing down through the lows and not having a good time. Gold is, man, gold's in a really, really trappy spot. I mean, we can see one of two things that's going to take place here. We either get the transition where the bulls get this going, right, or they fail, which is what I've got drawn here. Now, with the overall scenario, and we've got to zoom out to, I don't even know if a 60-minute is enough to show it. Yeah, the 60-minute is not even enough to show it. You've got to look at an even larger time frame to see the monstrous sideways range going on here on gold. Let me see here. If we look at GC1, is it 1 exclamation point? Exclamation point 1? I never remember. If we look at gold from the daily perspective and kind of just understanding where we are, this is a big transitional point. We had that huge lift that lifted the market back out of the 1500s, broke back up all the way to 2000s, and now after the 2000s, we've drifted back and kind of created a bit of a base. And we can see that there is a drastic amount of volume coming in at the 780s down to 1736s, and that's where they're trying to hold this base. We just haven't broken the falling resistance or the rising support, none of them. We need something to kick it off, really, more than anything else. That's all we need, is just a little bit of a kick in the pants, get things going. For now, though, we're just kind of hovering. And that's a problem, because if they do start losing ground below the 1720s, 1700s, I mean, if they, especially the 1670s, this thing's over, all the way down to like 1511. And if that doesn't hold, then there's nothing until the volume at, what, 1285? Yikes. That's vicious. So we'll see what they can do, but bit dangerous feeling. Nice rotation up. The S&P offered up the scalp, and that's it. A little bit more continuation phasing back to the upside. As far as resistance goes, the previously stuck bulls would have been buying above likely the engulfing bull bar, and that would have not worked out so well for them. So chances are they would be more than happy to be looking to get out. And they're going to be looking to do that at around 76. So 76 is the area of interest if they can get a pressure back down. Let's see how they want to play ball off of the top. The bulls have been a bit stronger than I think some folks were anticipating, myself included. I wasn't expecting them to plot another bull bar.
We should shortly be expecting the results of the Fed's reverse repo facility usage.
News around the corner here. Thank you, Financial Juice. The next news announcements Bigger news announcements are going to be at 1600 Eastern time, of course. But we do have some minor news announcements coming out here in the next couple minutes too. Nasdaq's trying to figure out if it wants to keep a bottom in here or if it wants to rotate up a little bit further and find some value. A lot of shorts would love to get some better pricing, especially now that we've broken away and back down to a new low. ES has a little bit further up towards the 76s.
79 counterparties take $1.597 trillion at the Fed's reverse repo facility.
Doesn't seem like the market cares too much. I have no idea what that says. Vorred? Yes. No? Maybe. Need a bit more continuation to the upside from the S&P if they're going to reach out and grab anything. Point of interest up at 76s or so. The Nasdaq does have a POC in the way at 264.25. How's it going, Bram? Yes. Dare Rove. Jeez, what a cycle to the downside. I expected as much, yeah. That'll be the greeting message for the rest of your life. That is, I mean... that'll be the next inside joke. I love it. A year from now, Vor Red. S&P a little bit more. 45.76. They've got a minute and a half left on the candle. A minute and a half is a little bit awkward in terms of timing. There is some marginal candle gapping, but that candle gap target will have been filled if it fills in the short at 76. So it's not a huge deal, really, in this case, if it takes all the way until the end of the candle to get up there. The sellers obviously do have a bit more continuation phasing, possibility at least to the downside. A lot of sideways action going on here. S&P is starting to look like I might not get the fill that I wanted here.
So from the Wall Street Journal, the US is preparing sanctions against pro-Russian separatists in Ukraine, according to sources.
Well, the S&P couldn't quite give up the 76s for me. We'll see if they can get something a bit more beneficial going on here. As far as the Nasdaq's concerned, primarily a lot of sideways action, but the sellers are trying to get something going here. S&P closing out the third candle in this sequence. A lot of wick on the top here. Did they fill these? Did they get the candle gap? They didn't. All right, they got a little bit of room you let. Nasdaq starting to creep back down. Majority of them are sellers in this case.
The Wall Street Journal piece regarding this is available on the feed for those interested.
See what they're able to accomplish here to the downside. Sellers on the Nasdaq are starting to sweep it back down. Nice bear bar momentum. S&P's just not going to give it up. Didn't quite get it. Didn't quite get it there. All right, ES. Very nice slide to the downside on the Nasdaq for a continuation phase. Sellers, I'm sure, would love to see more. Sheesh, all the way down to a new low. Holy cow. S&P, talk about salt in the wound. Missed me by just a few ticks. Nice dive all the way down to a new low. Pretty spicy volume. Doesn't look like the sell side's done. S&P is still working its way lower. Vicious turn of events. The longs who did get long above 68 quarter are likely feeling a bit nervous here with 2 minutes 50 seconds left and this much pressure. If the market can make its way back up into the 68 quarters, I really like that area for an escape hatch for them. And that adds a lot more pressure back to the downside once again. There is some support down here in the 64, so we'll see what they're able to do down here, but zone of resistance with 2 minutes and a quarter left. 45.68 quarter. Two minutes left still. Plenty of time for an inside correction phase up. I guess the next big question is it going to be a big enough inside correction phase up to allow the earlier longs out and me in? Or is it just going to swerve and go down through the floor? Minute and a half left. Nasdaq also in the driver's seat to the downside. If we look at the whole leg from the top of the swing, which happened at around 1150 to the low, we still have a balance point, which is resting at 64.50. A minute left. Now, if you missed the morning game plan, if you're interested in getting the game plan with us every morning, we do that at 9 o'clock until around like 9:25 with YouTube members. That's the join button below the stream. Get to hang out with us and the rest of the VIPs in the room while we get our morning game plan sorted. Sellers trying to hold on for this bear slide. How they want to close this. 20 seconds left. Are they going to give a nice healthy bear bar? Or are they going to give some up at the end? Nasdaq staying fairly pressured down so far. Yeah, okay. It's like a bottom third candle, but nothing too spectacular. 68 quarters still the more likely zone of interest. See if they can keep this bad boy going or what they want to do here, but would really like the S&P to back up a little bit. Although it's feeling like I'm not going to get it. I'll still hold out. 68 quarters would be crazy if they can do it. Nasdaq's back down to the lows. That could add to the pressure for the S&P. Going a little bit sideways. A little bit choppy, sloppy. Nothing too crazy, though. Bitcoin's still getting pressured to the downside. Crude oil's starting to get kind of slugged a little bit here. They're down towards the lows and getting pressured. Hey, Chuck, how's it going? Three minutes left, ES. How are you going to get this candle to close? I got to be careful, because if we've got under a minute left, there's a chance that they could close a strong bull, and they don't really want that. We still have 3 minutes left, so I'll give it a couple yet, but sooner than later, you know? Getting closer. 66.50 is the high. 2.5 minutes left. $65 quarter was the close of the candle. It works out perfectly. Nice. You're thinking Bitcoin double bottoms at around 40,000 half and reverses? I mean, that's the... I tell you what, that's what I'm really hoping for, that's for sure. Because if it can't do that, then it's got some serious problems. They need to hold on to that. This trend down has been kind of unrelenting, and it could just be because, well, countries want it cheaper. You know, I mean, let's be real here. If countries are positioning themselves into Bitcoin, if it dips, they're just going to buy more. We've already heard from a lot of top hedge funds that are like 1% in. There are countries that are moving to it. I mean, this is a big transition. There's a lot going on behind the scenes, and any dip, I think, is just going to be a buying opportunity from the longer, bigger picture. So even if it does go through 40 half, which, by the way, some of the extension targets are like 23 to 25,000, which would be nuts. But it's doubtable that it's going to stay there very long if it does at all. And if it does get there, it could even be off of a glitch, you know? We've seen those before. Oh, yeah, big time. S&P, you got a minute left. You got less than a minute left. 45 seconds. I got to cancel it. I can't go short into the potential of this closing as a bull bar. That's a little too much. Gonna have to back off the gas pedal a little bit, see how they want to play ball here. Realistically, the context is the same. You know, if you're aggressive enough, there is a shortable opportunity with the assumption that longs from earlier feel like they may have missed their opportunity and they'll try to liquidate. Another consideration would be up to their objective area and see if they want to re-exit out. Since we're going to be getting there so late in the candle now, it wouldn't hurt my feelings, but it's buying after a... there's so many things that are wrong with this. It's ridiculous. Got to see how they want to play. This is not super happy looking. And 15,000's right around the corner on Nasdaq. Oof. Bitcoin, sorry, Bitcoin. I looked over at chat. S&P bulls do get triggered in above the 68s. 68 quarters are those longs. I want to see how those bulls are treated. So far, the bulls have been mishandled today. Let's see how they do this time around. If we go from the extended pull from the top to the bottom and then all the way across, as far as the volume is concerned, since they had that high that was made, the bottoming POC at 45.65 is there. The impulse is up at 45.75. It hasn't even made it yet. Short of the Dow at 35.298 today. Sold way too early. Man, I feel you. These slides lately on the markets have been absurd. You think they're going to go like 70 ticks, 80 ticks, and then it ends up going like 400. Like, what? Where did that come from? I don't have enough contracts for that. So hang on, come back. Hit the rewind. I mean, it's a good thing. It's a good problem to have, I guess, but unless you're on the wrong side of it, then it gets incredibly expensive. But I feel like every time I get out, and every time I get out of a great trade, you know, it's like, yeah, I held on longer than I was originally intending to. And even after that, you still have regrets because it went another 20 or 30%. It's nuts. But we are in pullback territory. There's a lot of volume coming in. Plus, depending on how January closes, ooh, man, there's a lot of info that happens on how January closes. A bearish January usually means February is going to be a mess. February also, from the longer picture of the entirety of the year, generally if January, say that 5 times fast, is negative, February is usually awful, but that's usually very close to the bottom for the rest of the year. So we'll see. Just keeps on chugging along. 13:33 going into the afternoon. Feel free to get those questions in. We'll get those covered for you along the way while we're taking a look for any other opportunities that set up. S&P's trying to work its way back down but having a tough time. Nasdaq's grinding around, kind of playing gross inside here. Depending on where, well, I mean, depending on where it wants to go, there could be a lot of interest. This thing's down 2.25% right now. This is ridiculous. The zone of interest on the Nasdaq, if it can slide down there, be around the 15,050s, basically. Oof. Man, that would be a heck of a flush. But if they could get down there, that would be amazing. A lot of swing longs would be looking at that area. Beyond that, though, obviously the other concern would be that massive trap high above the top. That's not looking too friendly right now. And based on 5 waves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's waiting for that last one. Yikes. So we have to put ourselves in the shoes of the bulls who bought above this bull bar at 1330. Are they going to be satisfied with what took place? If they bought at 68 quarter, it went up to not even enough for a 4-tick scalp. It looks like another really strong bull bar, but where's the follow through? They need to step up to the plate. They're getting there. Possible bottoming formation. Probability is meh, right? If we're looking at the overall probability, just based on random theory, the market going down versus going up, this distance versus that distance, just easier for it to go down first. But That said, the upside POC at 45.75 is a very likely objective. I've added the volume profile to my charts, and I've noticed that it seems that there's usually at least a pullback to the very bottom of the volume profile before it continues down, vice versa. No, that's one thing that you have to understand, especially when you start watching the POCs. If you assume that those are their average, also assume that they haven't exited or entered everything all at once. We're talking, you know, Goldman Sachs and JP, thousands of contracts. They can't just buy market. It doesn't work that way. I mean, they could, but it would flush the market and make it go crazy. So instead, they have to add in, add out, add in, add out. And it's this ebb and flow that takes place. That's where these volume nodes come in. Now, are they the only ones that are making this volume? No, of course not. This volume is created for a million infinite different reasons. But if we just simplify the market and say, you know what? All of this is Goldman. I know it's not. But let's just say it's all Goldman. Where are they? Both long and short. Remember, we can go both ways. Are they long? Are they short? Well, look at the POC and kind of judge where has it gone from that area. You know, in realistic sense, if we look at the POC here, if these are longs, they're still in building phase, right? They haven't actually had a turn in their direction. They're underwater. So they're buying in a little bit more. And we can say that because it's, well, the volume's there. But it's also not really breaking away. It's not like they're getting stopped out. So they continue to piece in. The same thing happens when we have a corrective phase up that takes a little while. And if we go back and look at that one there, we'll see the same thing. Rinse and repeat. On up. And while the market is rising higher, this POC, again, could be longs. These buyers looking for a breakout, sure. I mean, they would have worked. But generally speaking, when we have this, assuming that these are longs, they had their targets. Assuming that these are shorts, they got their targets. But if we look at it as a break-even point that they have to add in and reduce out and add in, then when the market breaks away and fills some of their targets, they've liquidated out of some. Let's just use easy numbers and say that they're short 100 contracts during this rally up. So when it starts driving down, let's say while it's driving down into their scalp target, they liquidate 5, 6, 10 contracts, just 10%, scalp out of a little bit, you know, pocket some profit, whatever. When it goes back up, now that they've pocketed some profit, why not re-add, you know, maybe 5 of those 10 that they took off? Effectively keeping half of it, and if it goes up to here, they still kept that part that they won. So they can rebuild in again or try to get better prices, etc., until it finally goes down to the target area to get the job done. So that return to value, a lot of times what you're seeing is a repositioning or an adding to their pre-existing positions that they already have. You know, re-adding into their long or adding into the short or getting out of their long and positioning short, whatever they're doing. But when you start seeing those retests and re-pullbacks, yeah, that's all it is. And you'll see it on pretty much every swing high, every swing low. And some of the most common swing highs and swing lows come in 3 presses. We talk about that all the time, but if we really break that down, it's 1, 2, 3, and then the market does whatever it wants to do. But if we look at that from a volume perspective, remember that this was once before a bear trend beforehand, right? So there's a lot of POC action or volume that's going to take place from here that wasn't long, they were short, and they were trying to get it to rotate down. So when it breaks above them, what do they have to do? Well, some of them will eat the stops, but we're talking hundreds and hundreds of contracts. They can't just hit market on stops. So they have to reposition out when it pulls back. Well, if it comes back and allows them out of break even, what better spot to get out at? Right? So you see this natural ebb and flow around that POC as though it were a break even point on both sides. And that's why you can measure it that way. So yes is the short answer, and there's a lot to it is the long answer. Volume is like the story, the whole reasoning behind what the market's doing and why it's doing it. You know, I mean, if you understand the volume and understand what's happening from a volume perspective, then generally speaking, you're going to have a good shot at anticipating what's going to happen next. Luck stops becoming so lucky, if you catch my drift. Luck favors the prepared, as they say. We are starting to get to the end of the session, so make sure to get those questions taken care of. We do show up here every day at 1300 as long as the markets are open. We'll be here, 1300 Eastern, so if you missed your question or didn't come in early enough today, we'll be back tomorrow afternoon as well. If you're looking to join me during the New York Stock Exchange Open, you can gain access to the live trade room just by going to the main page of SSFTG. You can register for a 1-week trial and see us trading during the market open during the New York Stock Exchange from 9 until usually around 11, 11:30, 12 o'clock, depends on what's going on. VIPs, of course, have permanent access to the live trade room with no membership fees or anything else like that every month, so all comes as part of the package. Yeah, we're live in a couple different ways. YouTube members, like the join button underneath the stream on YouTube. YouTube members have access to our morning brief or our morning prep, where we go live in the morning from 9 a.m. Eastern time. Everything's Eastern for me. We go live from 9 o'clock until around 9:30 while we're doing our morning prep before the market open. Our VIP room, which is open all morning from 9 until 12 or like 11:30 or 12, depends on what's going on. That's open to VIPs. You can get more info on that right on the main page of SSFTG. And then we're also live every day for free in the afternoon, like right now, at 1300 Eastern. So, got a ton of content all over the place. We're live in 3 different places. We got 2 different videos that come out every day. We got the bases covered. I tried throwing some videos on TikTok too, but I gotta figure out a better way to do it. I gotta figure out why my chair. It just needs to take a bath in WD-40 is what it needs. There's a squeak or something that's driving me crazy. Anyway, let's do final call for questions and we'll start wrapping it up for the day. Overall, for the afternoon session, I got 1 scalp on the S&P. As far as the whole day goes, for the morning session with VIPs, there was a lot more scalping action this morning with all that back and forth. But the afternoon kind of swerved me. I tried getting a couple fills and I just couldn't do it. They wouldn't give them to me. The Nasdaq offered up some nice opportunities this morning as well, but nothing in the afternoon to really play ball with. Maybe this little reset will give us something to do. Well, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate it. Yeah, we go live every day at 1300 Eastern, so it usually gets posted. I try to post it as soon as this one ends. I post it again just to try to not bury the video feed. But usually the link is posted the day before, but you can always just see it right on our live feed. So. Yeah, how about Microsoft getting Activision? Holy crap, what? What a turn of events. We were talking about that this morning in the VIP room. I mean, I'm floored. I don't even know what to think about that. Like, okay, so Microsoft, they come into play and they buy a giant gaming firm like Blizzard. And don't get me wrong, Blizzard's not been doing... They've had their fair share of issues. Let's just leave it at that. But, you know, when Microsoft comes into the picture, generally things... Well, one of 2 things happens. It either turns into microtransaction misery, or it turns out beautifully and it works out amazing, right? Look at the launches for Windows, right? It's a bipolar flip the switch. One's great, the other one's terrible. This is kind of the same thing here. You know, Microsoft, when they bought like Minecraft as an example, and Mojang and all of the other, those, like, I don't know how many of you have to deal with it. I have to deal with it because of my kids love Minecraft, and it didn't get better from my perspective. You know, but I hope it helps. You know, you look at the gaming lineup now and you look at the main page and it's like Diablo, Overwatch, you know, all of these really awesome names. Then there's like Bubble Pop. Like, for real? That's the game lineup that you're going with, huh? Okay. I don't know. I hope it does it good. You know, I really do, because man, the Call of Duty launches just seem like money grabs lately. just shy of actually having NFTs inside of there. That's about the only thing they're missing with how much money they siphon out of people with microtransactions. I mean, that's right up Microsoft's alley, I guess. They got that down pat. From a business flow standpoint, from a money perspective, they'll probably do fine. There's a reason Microsoft is where it is, you know. From a user's perspective, I hope they take it and they run with it. And yeah, exactly. For the metaverse and for the future, I hope they take it and they run with it, because it could turn into something huge. That said, their track record is sketchy. So, you know, I'm waiting with bated breath, I think is the best way to put it. I'm hopeful. But diversified. I mean, could you imagine the inflow of capital that would happen if Microsoft utters the words like Ethereum or blockchain or metaverse launch or NFT or something like that? I mean, just explosion of volume. It's around the corner, just wait. Speaking of Overwatch and all of the other things, I mean, you think about, like, as an example, CSGO. I know different company, but CSGO has a similar concept where with skins, you can buy and sell skins. Now think of, like, epic weapons and guns and things that you could only get because you did so-and-so completion, or you just have a really thick wallet and you can buy whatever you want. You know, a la Mr. Beast style. But it's kind of the same concept, where there's just so much to it. Like World of Warcraft with NFTs and legendary swords that there are literally only 5 of. How crazy. It's just, I'm super excited for the gaming aspect. So the more the merrier. I mean, have them all pile in. Snoop Dogg wants to buy more land and wherever, hey, knock himself out. Hopefully he uses my referral link, right? I mean, it's going to be good for it regardless. So. Would that one dude drop like $500,000 to live next to Snoop Dogg's property in Sandbox? Jeez. Anyway, going on 150. Not seeing any other questions coming in, so that's going to do it. We'll wrap up. I got to get more videos recorded and get those prepped for the afternoon session. So if I did miss any questions, or you have any questions about what we have to offer, or just anything in general, if there's a trade that you want me to review for you, sure. You can shoot me an email, jhb@ssftg.com. You can get the contact box on the main page of SSFTG. If you're in our Discord chat, if you're a member one way, shape, or form, you can get me from there too. There's a million different ways to get a hold of me. You know where I'm at. Otherwise, we'll be back tomorrow morning for YouTube members, or tomorrow afternoon for the free side of things. Either way, enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you had a fantastic trading day today, and we will see you all tomorrow. Talk to y'all later. Thanks.